Hi, everyone. I am back. All right. So the next question is, what values did you want to establish in Merge? And so I can just share one story I haven't told yet is how on January the 6th, our US Capitol was overtaken by people who were upset that President Trump had not been elected. We know he now has been elected. We're in 2025, and we are living out the first month or so of his second tenure as president. But at the time, he'd lost the election to Joe Biden. And there were people in our country who were furious about this, were overtaking the Capitol, and you had people who were quite literally flying Confederate flags across the US Capitol. I was working that day. I had not cut on my television. My boss called me, and I was Sean Hayes at the time. And he said, Krystal, have you turned on the TV today? Have you watched the news? Now, guys, listen, the last time I got a call that felt that weighty from someone who said, you probably want to cut on the news, it was September 11th, 2000. I was at Tarleton State University. I was a freshman in college, and my mother called me and asked if I had cut on the news around the same time, about 9 a.m. And I told her I had not. And she said, you probably want to wake up and cut the news on. And that was what it felt like when Sean Hayes said, have you cut on the news? And so, anyhow, I got up, I cut on the television, and I saw everything from Confederate flags to, I mean, just angry, furious people, thousands of people overtaking our US Capitol. And I knew that a good portion of what I was seeing, it was in response to people who felt like people of color, people who look like me, were replacing them, and they were angry and really felt that their voices would be heard under President Trump as opposed to President Joe Biden. And so that was a lot to process, a lot to process. I was at the time the only Black woman on my team, the only Black person, period, on my team. And I really felt alone in that moment. We were preparing for the launch of Merge. Merge would launch about a month later, but Merge had not yet launched. And we were still, our diversity initiatives were still in their infancy. Really, they were still a gleam in our eye at the time. And so, one of the things that has really been critical to me was just making sure that people of color feel a place of safety and security and shelter amidst whatever is happening in our country, despite what is happening, that we would always have a place. And on that day, I really felt alone and that I didn't have a place to emotionally process what we were experiencing. I had to still call students. I had to still manage what I had on my plate for work that day. I had to still exist in this space while really feeling personally attacked by what I was seeing. And so that was one major value that I wanted to establish. Sorry, guys, Labradoodle under the table. But that was one major initiative, or sorry, one major value that I wanted to establish and merge was a sense of connection, a sense of belonging, a sense of shelter here at ACU. With other people who had at least an understanding of what you were going through experientially. So that was one thing. Another thing that we really wanted to establish and merge was a sense of growth and learning and development. One of the things that came out of those early discussions was a sense that people of color did not feel like they had the capital, the social or professional capital at ACU to advance at the levels that they really wanted to advance. There were many people who felt like they might have been shut out of promotional opportunities, but they really wanted to be positioned to be able to fight for those types of roles. And so, one thing that we established was internal training that we wanted to do. We wanted to be able to talk about ways for us to grow academically. We wanted to talk about ways for us to grow professionally. And we really wanted to establish a good sense of self care because there was a sense that a lot of people were really struggling emotionally, psychologically, with the weight of all the things that were happening in our country and that continue to happen in our country, I should say, over the last 5 years. And so a sense of growth and development, training, education, support, critical for us. Okay. So those were some of the values that we really wanted to make sure we laid the foundation for. And then the last thing that I will say is out of the book study, I'm Still Here in 2020, we really saw as an institution a growth in the sense of our understanding of how other people felt. I felt more understood as a person of color by my white colleagues. And I think my white colleagues felt a bit more understood by employees of color as well. There were a lot of discussions in which I understood why people held some of the beliefs that they held, like all lives matter. That phrase at a point was felt offensive to me. It felt like a personal attack. It felt like the concept that Black Lives Matter didn't matter and that we should erase that. And so I have come to understand a bit about how other people have felt and why people held those beliefs. And one thing that was really critical, one thing that we really wanted to ensure we did was we wanted to make sure that we continued the discussion. So we launched what we called MERG monthly discussions, MMD. And the tagline for MMD, you may not know this, but the tagline for MMD is creating change through dialogue. So our objective was to continue to create change on our ACU community and for us to do that through the advent of dialogue. I hope this is helpful. Again, this is some of the many ways and some of the many things that we wanted to establish in terms of overall values for MERGE. Thank you guys. I'll be back with the next question. Bye.